So, guys, broadcast Signal Intrusion,
Yes.
Producer, Giles Edwards, Queensbury Pictures,
Yep.
and Phil Drinkwater, the writer.
Yeah, co-writer, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
absolutely. So, listen, first of all, you, Giles, this is one from the New Blood Initiative that we inaugurated a few years ago.
Yeah.
How did it leap out at you from that particular forum?
It was just really good. I don't want to make Phil's head blow up. You can
Got a
just...
small head.
Well, yeah, it's also about the concept and the idea, but when you open a script and you just read the first few pages, you're like, these guys can fucking write. Oh my God, it's just like, that's the holy grail. You obviously we see so many ideas and log lines and pictures and things like that, and then you open the script and it's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. It's like a automatic screenwriting kind of manual come to life, and then Tim and Phil were so, adept at just conjuring that image on the page that, it was such a breezy read, and then I immediately throw over to my guys in Chicago who were like, yeah, this is the film we wanted when we read that logline. So, it's these guys really. It's no more complicated than that.
But to be fair enough, it's based on a short film. So you did have a bit of a heads up way in already.
Which I hadn't seen, actually. This only came to light afterwards. So.
Yeah, and we wrote the feature before the short. The feature was just something that we just felt like we just had to write it. And then we made the short as a kind of, I don't know, like a version of it to see what it would be like.
Almost as a work in progress.
Yeah, as a work in progress kind of thing. Yeah. So the feature came first, and then the script came first, and then the short after that, and then the feature, then back to the feature. Yeah.
Back to the feature.
Yeah.
There's a film. No. So listen. So how long did they keep you in suspense before telling you that had actually been chosen to do?
I don't know. I can't.
Well, because I know Tim and Phil, you couldn't actually come along to the day, right? It was actually the first year. It was the person. Whatever.
Yeah.
They couldn't actually come along, so we had the meetings, and they said they sent the script through afterwards. It was like, great, we never hear from them again. And then they sent it straight through. It was like, okay, cool. They followed up. That's always a start. Someone who's willing to kind of keep in contact. And then initially it really stood out to us as well, I should say, because it's Chicago. And because these things happen in Chicago, and so Queensbury Pictures is a subsidiary of MPI, who are a company who are based in Chicago. So they are Chicago born and bred. The whole of the team. I work in London, but my whole team is based in Chicago. So as soon as this logline came in, my boss Greg, who's one of the producers on this, Greg Newman, he was like, he remembers this. He's a middle-aged guy who remembered this happening in Chicago. It's one of the great unsolved.
Of course, it's actual true story.
Yeah. It's like it's not an urban legend because everyone knows it's happened and the footage is out there. You can see things, but it was never solved. Like in the film, some people basically hijacked this signal and went haywire. Nowadays, you probably be able to. I guess trace it back through whatever technology, but at that time, kind of nascent, very kind of early adapted technology, it was kind of this crazy, well, what happened? And then everyone kind of just couldn't make head or tail of it, and it kind of left the kind of public consciousness, but it's always been there, right, Phil? That's where you would
Yeah. We'd only just heard about this max headroom incident thing. It was in Chicago. We found it on YouTube. And we're the kind of people who tend to fall down little rabbit holes for, I don't know, years at a time. And so that combined with a couple of other things on like kind of analog kind of little mysteries that just were out there in the ether, and that all fed into this then fictionalization of, what if, we placed that at the heart of a kind of 70s paranoid thriller and see what would happen. Yeah.
What did you insist on, changes-wise? Did you insist on rewriting?
Well, it's smaller. The thing is, the guys wrote it. It started in London, right? It started in London, and the guy went to, I think, New York.
Yeah,
so it was a much more pan-American thing, so it kind of felt a bit more like a great American road movie. And of course, that's great. It was fabulous, but in terms of budget and time and things like that, you have to constrict it. So it went from a kind of a pan-Atlantic, trans-America thing to really a kind of a cross-Illinois kind of thing. So still relative, kind of geographical kind of sort of spread, and it felt like it was a journey, and it felt like you actually travelled somewhere, but it wasn't quite as expansive. I don't think it loses much. I think it's still an intense ride. It's about this one guy as well. Even in the original script, he doesn't meet dozens and dozens and dozens of like-minded people, and it becomes this vast kind of sort of parallax view kind of thing. It's always very, very kind of macro. And, it was always very much kind of this one guy doing his thing. So it kind of felt, the homogeneity of the thing kind of was retained, even though, and he did a brilliant job kind of
Right.
really, really stripping it back down with Jacob's help as well.
But did you actually think that you were going to direct it at any point? I mean, because you've done the short.
For about 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
That was the only question. I mean, the only question was, very, very boring kind of admin stuff. It's very difficult to bring British directors over to America and do. It's just
Right.
You know, I think beyond our realms of capability at the moment, sadly. But you know, I think we talked about it straight away. And
100%. Like went through through Giles and everything. That was never really a question. It was we were on board as the screenwriters, and Jacob came on board, and we were really happy because we knew his work, which is great. We maybe before when we'd written the feature and we made the short, around that point there was talk that maybe we would try and get this financed, but in Britain it's very hard to kind of get that type of film made. It's difficult to get people on board with genre stuff and in general. So when these guys came along and they loved it, it was like absolutely.
That's the genesis of the New Blood thing anyway, because it is difficult, especially for writers. You know, if you're out like Prana Bailey Bond or Rob Savage or those guys, they're really dynamic and they're doing their thing and they're writer directors and they're in that system. But if you're kind of more writers, like I think Tim and Phil kind of come from, it's very difficult to get your voice heard and seen, and if you're not going through the usual establishment methods of getting your work seen or things like that. It's tough. I mean, you want an agent, and it's still, even there, it's difficult to get seen, and especially for a kind of a company like us who's looking for these new talents. And because I'm UK based, that's why New Blood became such a thing. So I was like, they're out there. These guys can write this stuff. They're out there. Where are they? And look, just a little call out. And the first year.
So where did Jacob Gentry come from? Where was the idea of him? Was he always in the mix?
Well, I mean, once we got the script, the next thing is who's going to make it. And we really just had a shortlist, kind of a mental shortlist of people. Who do we like? Who are the directors out there who are not beyond our reach? Who feel comfortable doing a small, kind of intense little film, like relatively little film. It's not not a big LA film. It's not a Blumhouse film. It's still a very much an independent production. Who's good enough to do that? Has the capability of doing it really, really well, but still wants to kind of get down and dirty in the trenches, if you know what I mean. It's quite a fairly short list, really, of people who we think are really, really good. And Jacob was definitely in the at the top of that list. I mean, I really loved Synchronicity. I love Synchronicity, which is a previous film, which was a very ambitious kind of sci-fi project, but really cinematic. Probably maybe too ambitious. I don't know if it quite broke through in the way that Signal did, but it just showed that he really, really loves filmmaking. He's a proper director, and obviously the Signal had kind of really launched his career along with David Bruckner and Dan Bush, and we just reached out to him and said, "You're obviously into this weird shit. Is this something?" He was like, I know this thing, absolutely. So he'd already fallen down the rabbit holes, and I think you guys had lengthy telephone conversations completely away from us, where you just kind of absolutely nerded out about
that must have been really useful.
It was great. We were just interested in the same things, gone down the same rabbit holes, kind of the same film, reference points to be able. There was a shorthand in terms of like cinema that made those conversations just a joy, really. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, so realistically, I mean, you did film it in Chicago.
It was, yeah, absolutely. It was shot on the streets of Chicago. Very rarely any studio stuff. It was all kind of practical.
And Harry Shum, where did he come from?
Well, we've got we have worked historically with a very, very good casting director called Stephanie Holbrook, and she's worked with like M. Night Shyamalan, and she cast Servants and things like that. She's worked in very, very high end kind of casting, but she did Catfight with us with Sandra Oh and Anne Hesh. And she's done a number of films with us, so we kind of just reached out and said, "Look, we need someone who's really compelling in this film, because it's not a film of spectacle and kind of stunts and huge set pieces. It's a very, very intense character piece. You need someone who's fucking brilliant, but also can really kind of carry it, just beyond the kind of sort of indie film confines." And we just done Girl on the Third Floor and got Phil Brooks in it, and we kind of saw the power of someone who was maybe slightly more unconventional as a lead. And Harry was one of the guys put in front of us. I think he wanted to maybe break out from his slightly more soft. He's a gorgeous looking boy. He's just a very, very good looking dude, and his reputation is kind of predicated on that. He's got a fantastic following. I think he wanted to do something darker. I think he wanted to do something that was. I mean, it's all him. I mean, he's in every frame of the film. And I think it was a real challenge for someone like that to kind of cross over and do something that really shows his acting chops. And he just responded to the material. I mean, him and Jacob are best buds now. They really, really got on. They really, really bonded over this, and he's really into the project. It's not just a piece of work for him. I mean, he's going to be doing. He wants to be involved in the press. He's very much in control of his image, not in a kind of starry way. He just wants to be. Look, I'm doing this thing. It's great. I'm acting. Okay. He's proving himself, and he's been fabulously supportive all the way through. Really, really. I mean, working late nights, really long, really intense. I mean, I've done small things for people who haven't seen the film, but at the ending, it's very intense and it's very, very kind of sort of focused. And he just kept on doing it, and he really delivers,
Were you on set? Or, I mean, did you go there?
No, we didn't go there.
Nor was I. I think
was this in a lockdown situation? Or?
No, I mean it's just
difficult.
It's just difficult to. I think they do their thing there. The same with Girl. Dan Martin went out to do Girl on the Third Floor, and he did the effects of this as well. So some of it was shot in the UK. Some of the Android stuff was shot in.
Yes, of course.
Dan Martin's, he's got a warehouse in.
And it was his face, wasn't it?
James Swanson. Yeah. So he's in like 4 films this year, I think. Yeah. But he is the Sally Sparks character. So that was all shot here, and that footage was then incorporated by Jacob. Actually live on set, so we did it like a month before.
Right.
So all of the video screens you see there, I think most of it is actually projected live, so everyone watched it.
Assumed that it was all actually.
No. I mean, there are some composite shots, I think, where it wasn't maybe quite as clear, but all of the stuff when he's actually watching the video and he's there is that Jacob wanted it to be live. So he wanted that kind of immediacy to the performances because it's very unnerving, very freaky, and very kind of I think it really works. And Dan did a fabulous job.
I mean, Phil, is it the film you wanted it to be? I mean, has it worked? I mean, you've got to look at it dispassionately, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it?
To be honest.
No. Honestly, I've been. A lot of people have asked that, like in the build up to this, and it really is like it's just what we wanted was to make something that was kind of had this kind of ambiguity to it, like something that didn't offer the kind of maybe the catharsis that a lot of horror tends to offer sometimes, and we kind of want it to be the opposite of that and hark back to those kind of 70s films that were kind of frustrating in that way and ambiguous in that way.
Yeah, sure.
And that was always the key thing. So for these guys to come on board and then to make that and stay true to that.
And we never want to change that ending either. I think the ending is something I think people talk about, and some people really go for it, some people don't, and that's fine. I think you look back on the lineage of this film, which is the Conversation and the Parallax View and 3 Days of the Condor. They all have sort of endings, but you never really find out. There's maybe a little less closure in this one. It's a bit more like a kind of a J horror kind of thing as well. It has that kind of feel to it, but that's kind of the point. It's about the lack of closure and how frustrating that can be, how dangerous that can be for people. It draws on like Zodiac was a big kind of template for both you and for Jacob when we were making it, and it's something we always loved about the script because it's made you feel a certain way, and we never wanted to kind of make a happy ending or have a big, kind of a big reveal or anything like that. So it kind of goes where it goes, very pure, and that was. I mean, we never really changed.
No.
I think maybe tried to make the ending a little bit bigger in some points, but actually then kept it.
There's nothing like it out there. I mean, it's so unique and different. That's what I responded to the most. I thought, okay, this is, because I phoned him up straight after seeing it and told him how much I liked it.
This is one of two things.
And I was really sort of like, who cares about it? But I really wanted to, like it.
Yeah,
it's got our name.
Yeah.
So, but I was really, really pleased, and you must have been really thrilled.
Yeah,
too.
I really was. Yeah, it really felt like it just felt like the film we'd written.
Right.
So, you hear so many horror stories, about writers who kind of like their work is handed over and then it becomes this complete different thing, and you don't have any control over it after that point. So for us to watch the final version and go, this is the film that we wrote,
that's really
other than like those little logistical
I think
things
scale.
that we talked about.
Scale's the thing that changes.
It's heart, it's dark, weird heart. It's
Has it been? I mean, from a sales point of view, has it been a success? Have people gone?
People are really. Look, it's been a weird year, and that's the thing. It premiered at South by Southwest, finished not long before that. Despite the lockdown and everything, we had to do reshoots and bits and bobs, and there are not reshoots in a bad way, but kind of pickups of various kind of practical. There's a scene on a road, being very ambiguous, with a thing on the road, and that had to be shot differently. That shot 6 months after the actual shoot, all that kind of stuff that happens, and then getting the sound right, and the composer Ben Lovett, who is, one of the fucking stars of the show. He's working. So he's just done a Night House. He's got like tons and tons of stuff on the go. He does all David Bruckner's films. He's really in high demand as a composer, but he's a friend of Jacob's. He did the Signal. He knows him from back then. So getting him was fabulous, but obviously he has to fit stuff in between all the other gigs. And so it finished very early this year. It well premiered at South by Southwest. And of course, no one's going there. No one's going to these festivals anymore. Cannes was virtual this year. So getting people to see it has been trickier than normal, and obviously we want people to see it in very specific circumstances. We don't want people watching on their phones and things like that. We need to give it a shot. We need to give it a real chance. But people are really liking it. It's picking up steam, and it's selling. The well, as well as most independent films can be at the moment.
So you've had a good. I mean, your experience is probably unusual. The fact that it's been a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, would you work with this guy again?
100%. Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Come on.
Yeah. So, would you trust that person? No. But would you? So, and are you going to? In fact.
Well, I mean, the thing about our films is they're all that material. So I can be very blasé about that and say, well, it's about. This guy's got to write these things. Him and Tim have got to kind of come up with that stuff. And, look, they're fucking brilliant writers. They're absolutely amazing. They really are genuinely, in the top echelons of when you read something, it's like, these are screenplay writers. These are great. They're just the dialogue pops and each little turn works. And, it does what it's meant to do even just on a page. And that's so refreshing, so fun and so great to read. They write weird stuff. I mean, their milieu is very, kind of dark and psychological, and that kind of stuff's tricky. This does very much lean over into a slightly more kind of commercial thriller, I suppose, which marries that, which is great. But, if they find a way of doing that again, then absolutely, we'd love to.
Well, great. I mean, look, it's gone the distance. We're going to show it later on. I mean, I'm sure it's going to do well. I mean, it's going to look great on the big screen.
It sounds great on the big screen as well. It's amazing. I think this will be the first time anyone's seen it on the big screen as well. I don't think there have been any other festivals. It's doing the festival run at the moment, and I think this is the first of a number.
That's a good
and
thing
so South by Southwest was virtual, or the Cannes stuff was virtual. I think it was in Chattanooga and Fantasia. I don't think they were cinemas. I think they were virtual as well. So this will be the first time
that's
an
really
audience has seen it on the big screen as well. So it's the first proper premiere, really, which is fitting and wonderful.
Well, because it's a FrightFest.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, perfect. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, watch this space, guys.